everyone for coming to hear what I have to say about URISA, the parent organization of the Ohio Valley chapter. I am Tom Fisher. I am the URISA board president, but also the GIS administrator here in Cuyahoga County. Just a simple plug here. We just announced yesterday that we are here in Cuyahoga County, we're actually hiring for a new GIS administrators, or not administrator, analyst, sorry. I'm the administrator. So can you can see me too, right? All right, so let's move on here, and if I can. There we go. So let's talk about URISA. URISA is all about you, right? These are the things I'm going to talk about. The 2022-23 highlights of things that the board had done and the committees. Events and activities, sort of recap last year's, but then also talk a little bit about future activities that are coming up for URISA. We'll talk about our committees. We have a lot of committees, so I'm in the interest of time, I'm going to highlight some of the bigger committees that we have, the ones that are more active. I'm going to go over chapters and what we're looking at as far as expanding our chapters, and then a little forward thinking, right? So what are we doing as far as the strategy, the branding, things like that. So these are the things that I will be talking about. So first out of the gate, URISA highlights the 2022-23. I was president-elect at the time. Ashley Hitt was our president. And first thing that we did was we contracted with a group called Niger Design to look at our branding of URISA. As you can see down in the lower left-hand corner, that sort of paint-looking logo. But then also the name, right? So for those that aren't familiar, URISA stands for the Urban Regional Information Systems Association. People that know us as the GIS professional organization, and GIS isn't anywhere in the name. So that was part of the reason why we thought we needed to look at the brand and the market of who it is that we serve. The technology changes quickly, and so does the professional landscape. And so we're talking, and looking at that with Niger Design. We started that 2023. It's not done yet, but we did start it. Board governance. So one of the things that we do on an annual basis, our leadership goes to the American Society for Association Executives. There's two different symposiums that they hold. And the one that they held last year in Omaha, Nebraska that I went to, one of the things they talked about was how a board of directors actually should be speaking with one voice, right? And so, as we bring in issues related to URISA and GIS to the board, we debate, we deliberate the issues, then we take a vote. And the vote is, the majority, it's majority rules. And that's the direction that the organization is going to go, whether, it affirms or rejects the proposal in front of the board. But we do that as one voice. So the problem with that is we had open board meetings, and so we would have past presidents and other individuals, members come to the board, where when we put things up for a vote or we deliberated issues, people weren't being their true selves, right? They were sometimes masking, and it was kind of introducing bias. So we actually took the stance that the board was going to be closed meetings for debate, deliberation. We are not a public organization, so it's not like it has to be open, and it's not open to the public like you would if you were a county, a city, that sort of thing. But what we would do was provide a town hall meeting and things like this to kind of talk about the highlights of things that, the strategic direction of the board and things that we voted on. So that was something that changed in 2022-23. We did put together a strategy for allied and affiliated organizations. And so what are, just in brief terms, an allied and affiliated organization is somebody that we are, we can align with, that is, let's say, GIS adjacent. So IAAO is not a GIS organization. We could, become allied or affiliated with them to help augment or, our mission stated goals as a GIS organization. NACO is another one, the National Association of Counties, I believe, is what NACO stands for. PRIA, the Professional Recorders Industry Association, things like that. So we outlined that strategy of how we would put together, memorandums of understanding that joined us together for conferences and and the like. The thing that we didn't want to do was allied or affiliate with organizations that were competitive with us, right? Things, groups that may have the same stated goals, because we're, obviously we're competing for market share. So that's what we outline, that strategy. We think it's pretty comprehensive. And that's one of the things that we completed here in 2022-23. We began a strategy discussion for chapter expansion. A lot of debate around this. For those that are on the call, a number of you know that chapters were independent of the parent organization for the longest time. We actually decided to unify them under the parent organization through what's called chartering. And we got that completed. We actually brought 13 of the original chapters over into the charter process. The problem is that we have large areas of the United States, Canada, that are not covered, and we don't have an international strategy for chapters as well. So these are things that we're talking about, and how to expand chapters. What do they look like? Do they look like they're regional like us? Are they state? Single states? Are they urban areas? They can take many shapes and forms. We just need to, put a pretty comprehensive expansion strategy together. But we began that discussion in 2022-23. Leadership academies, which I would say is probably our preeminent, offering that we have within URISA, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about those. But we refreshed the content of GIS Leadership Academy, and then we also expanded to GIS Leadership Academy 2, which is going to launch here in Chicago, 2024. So those that have attended GIS Leadership Academy are eligible to take the Advanced Leadership Academy. And the Advanced Leadership Academy is really getting deeper into calculations and formulas, and like return on investment, right? Building a strategy, those types of things, like SWOT analyses and things like that. So, and then the Geospatial Data Act amendment. I bet everybody here on this call thought that geospatial data actually had a very clear definition. Well, as it relates to legislation, it didn't. So URISA put together, our team of, it's called our Policy Advisory Committee. I'll talk a little bit about that here too. They drafted a geospatial data definition and presented that to the FGDC and to the legislature, the federal, legislature, to actually get that defined. So that's, some of the things that URISA has done in 2022-23. And then, our first annual report, so was out there, and our second was coming. It's almost wrapped up, which kind of takes all this information from all the committees and summarizes it in a report, and that should be available here by the end of the month on our website. So events by the numbers. GIS Pro 2022 was in Boise, Idaho, attendance of 425. LEAP is a virtual conference. It stands for Location, Enterprise Addressing, and Public Safety. That's a virtual conference. It's actually going to be held here at the end of the month on LEAP Day. I believe it's the 28th and 29th this year. But we had virtual attendance of 108. The asterisk there because groups can, you can actually sign up and have watch parties. So 108 people actually signed up for it, but there was quite a few more that actually attended. So our Valtech conference, and that's actually coming up here in April, but it was held in Las Vegas last year, 319. Our Leadership Academies cap out at 50. And so the Santa Rosa, California, obviously nice destination. We had 50 there, Charlotte 33, Denver 45. The in-person Leadership Academy, because there's a lot more than just the content to learn. There's connections to be made and experiences to share. And so that's why we feel that it's a better, what I would consider brick and mortar as opposed to virtual. We do offer virtual for those that aren't able to travel. And we tried to also, build in some of that community building into that as well. And usually that maxes out. We usually get, 50 people sign up for that as well. GIS Pro in Columbus, we eclipsed Boise, Idaho, with 433 in attendance. So thanks everybody for coming to the great state of Ohio, and that's us. Our board of directors. So right there at the top, that's me. I'm the president. But just below me, that's my cabinet, or executive cabinet, I'm sorry. And that's John Nolte, he's our president-elect from Colorado. Ashley Hitt, our past president. Tim Nolan, if you don't know Tim, you should. He's Texas Tim. He's our secretary. And Judy Colby George, treasurer, and she's from Maine. And then we also have all of those other folks. The one of note is Sid Ponde. Bernadette de Leon actually had to resign her position for health concerns. And so Sid was the number 4 vote getter in the election this year. And it was my privilege to, appoint the person to fill Bernadette's place. Sid is a consummate professional. He's pretty knowledgeable. He works for Deloitte, I believe, and he's in Virginia, but very happy. He's a go-getter, really makes things happen. So I was actually proud to be able to nominate him. And then down there in the lower right-hand corner, our ex officio board member is Amber Brochet, I believe. She is from Florida, but she's the CDRC, Chapter Development and Relations Council representative, and she represents the interests of the chapter, as well as me. I'm a chapter guy, so I soft spot in my heart here for the chapter folks. So what is our board responsibility? So we have what's called a fiduciary responsibility, and what that means is to hold in trust. And there are 3 pillars, of fiduciary responsibility. That's a duty of care, duty of obedience, and duty of loyalty. And there's a number of things that go into this, but understand that fiduciary is not necessarily have to do with money, right? Although we are responsible for making sure that the organization is funded in the proper ways. We generate revenue through conferences and the leadership academies and donations. But then we're spending that money in the right location, to advance the cause of the mission of the organization. And so those duties of care, obedience, and loyalty are really what the cornerstone of being a board representative is. We don't represent ourselves. We actually represent the membership. And so these are the things that we have to keep present of mind when we're now. It doesn't mean we can't be influenced by the things that we personally know in the industry. That's why we're there, because we've been in the industry for a while. But these are the things that we have to consider when we're taking a vote, right? Is it what's best for the organization? Is it what's best for the members? That type of thing. So let's go over URISA committees and task forces. As you can see, we have quite a few, and I've highlighted the ones that I'm going to talk about: the Chapter Development and Relations Council, Chapter Development Chapter Development and Relations Council, the GIS Core Committee, which is actually a pretty awesome committee that we have. what I would consider a property of URISA branding. Then there's marketing and membership. I like to put those two together because you market for membership, and membership is why we exist as an organization. Pro-equity and anti-racism pair. This started, I think everybody understands this, a number of years ago. But everything that we do as an organization comes with influence and bias, right? And so what we're trying to do with the Pro-equity and Anti-Racism group is take that, anything that we do, any action that we take, and run it through a lens of pro-equity and anti-racism, right? So as you can imagine, me, white male, has had certain life's experience, right? And so because I haven't walked a mile in the shoes from of a different race, or a different underserved population, I really I can be empathetic, but I can't sympathize to necessarily those. So that's why we want to have somebody, we want to have a group weigh in on these things, so that we are presenting it with that tact or lens on anything that we do. Professional Education Committee. A lot of folks believe that, and I believe this as well, but one of the reasons why our professional organization exists is to bring people together and educate them on subject matter that we may not have access to, in our day-to-day lives. So the Professional Education Committee comes together and they develop content and present, and they do it at our conferences. They also do it at Leadership Academy, but they also do it in the form of webinars. There's actually a good webinar coming up here, and we'll talk about this, but and I'm delving into these pretty deeply, but we'll talk about a new data governance one that's coming up that we're presenting here. Policy Advisory Committee, again, the group that comes together to advise the board on things politically expedient. And then Vanguard is our young professional group. Talk a little bit about that. So membership and marketing, again, I put it together, but it's really to advance membership and growth, retention and benefits by promoting URISA membership through marketing communications efforts, right? How do we do that? Well, presentations like this, right? We talk about the organization and what we're doing. Lean Coffee, hosted by Texas Tim Nolan. Like I said, if you don't know Tim, you should. Pretty awesome guy. He does this thing called Lean Coffee, virtually, where the people that attend are the ones that direct the content and the discussion. So, book club. They put together this little group of folks that are reading books or audio, listening to audiobooks. That's what a number of them actually do, related to, not just technical GIS stuff, but professional development as well. So and then once they're done reading, they get together and they discuss the book. We have seasonal offerings. I don't know that we're having one necessarily for Fat Tuesday today, but that's the sentiment there, right? So Christmas time, we actually had Jingle Mingle. These are the types of things that we do, maybe on a quarterly basis or whatnot. And we get together and we talk, right? And it's just a way for us to socialize virtually. Branding and marketing, Discover, like I mentioned before, Niagara Design has done a market analysis. We actually will be meeting with them next Friday to kind of talk about next steps from the report output that they came up with. Pro-equity, anti-racism, again, it's to advance and achieve, to achieve URISA's commitment to being a pro-equity and anti-racist organization, right? So we have our leadership from underrepresented groups within society, and that's gender, race, orientation, you name it. Those are the folks that are represented, or that actually sit on the pro-equity, anti-racism group, and they actually are, they're well versed in the practices of pro-equity and anti-racism, and they give us a lens. Like I said, board of directors passes proposed policies through to them, so that it's actually they can weigh in and give us insight that we normally wouldn't have, right? And so again, it's just a way to make sure that that we're really achieving the commitment for pro-equity, anti-racism. So that's why the committee exists. Vanguard Cabinet, 35 years of age or younger. So if you actually get the young professional discount as a member, you're eligible to be on the Vanguard Cabinet. These folks give the board, guidance from the youth perspective, right? So the future of the profession. It says there that policies that benefit young professionals. So right, we've got to, our history kind of informs the future, but we also need to go and talk to those people that will make up the future of the organization and make sure that we're strategically putting the organization into place to meet their needs, and then the future young professional needs. Right, it's the sort of way to keep the longevity of this organization. We've been around for over 60 years, so we must be doing something right in that regard. So 9 members are selected from applicants. Our Leadership Development Committee, which is actually chaired by the immediate past president, but is made up of other leaders within the organization. That Leadership Development Committee takes in applications once a year, reviews them, and then selects the cohort in late spring to begin their term in GIS Pro in the fall. So that's the and it's a 3-year commitment. I believe that's the 3-year commitment. So you would really start GIS Pro October of one year, and your first year would be through October of the subsequent year. You do 3 of those, and the model really is set up to be sort of learn, learn, lead, and mentor, right? So the first year that you're on the Vanguard Cabinet, you're really learning the ropes, so to speak, as the cohort. But then the next year, you're selected in it as taking a leadership position, and then the third year, you are really mentoring, those second-year folks. So that's really the reason why it's a 3-year commitment. But here's a representation of the 24 cohort, 2023 actually. But you can see there's diversity in this group, right? Geographically, but also gender and race, and even if you notice, we have a representative from Botswana. So I would say that we're really we're looking at it from their youth perspective, but also from that diverse perspective as well. 2 of the things that their marquee things that they're working on is this mentoring network. Actually, mentoring is open right now. Anybody can be a mentor or a mentee. Okay, so if you have been around for a little bit, even if you haven't, but you have something you want to, you want to bring a new professional under your wing and kind of help them, into the profession by sharing some of your experience. Great. The mentees, if you're looking for somebody to be mentored by, this is where you go when you sign up, right? And mentors can have more than one mentee, but they try to take, sort of your background, understanding of, where you are within the profession, what your goals are within the profession, and match them up with the right, mentor, so that you can develop a long-lasting relationship, right? I mean, the idea behind the mentor-mentee relationship is that this starts and facilitates it, but we're hoping that there's a bond that's created so that if you have a question, professionally related, even not, depends on, I guess, the relationship that you build, but you can bounce that off of your mentor as a mentee. And the other thing about being a mentor is that you're not immune from being educated, right? So the mentees actually have a lot of wisdom to share as well. So it's really sort of that symbiotic relationship between the 2 of them. The digital competition, this is sort of takes if you guys remember, if you guys know about the map gallery type thing of all of the cartography. Well, this is the digital competition, taking it up a notch. And so these allows the students and young and emerging professionals to submit their and showcase their works, and they're voted on, and there's a winner announced. So that's something, if you're interested, take a look at that. Our policy advisory committee, like I said, we as a 501c3 are not allowed to be we don't lobby, right? So as a professional organization, we can be advocates though, right? And so our policy advisory committee is a group of what I'll call seasoned professionals, folks that have been around. I mean, the curmudgeonly old guys, right? But they understand, and have seen quite a bit, and they actually bring together. It doesn't mean they're the ones that typically, chair the group, but we have a very broad range of perspectives here, and they're the ones that really take any sort of proposed legislation at a state level or at a national level, review it, and then advise the board as to what stance the URISA organization should take, right? So, it was established back in 2008. Again, it's recommending formal policy positions pertaining to the URISA mission. Again, it can't be partisan, although think about that. It's kind of hard not to be in some regards, but we don't do partisan lobbying or direct support to a party or a candidate. And the positions, and again, there are procedures that that you have, to follow as far as the committee is concerned. Let's see, PAC. Again, it's outwardly focused on issues relevant to URISA members and geospatial professionals. It's a resource to chapter members for advice and assistance. So if the Ohio Valley chapter actually has any issue that may be faced, that may be a legislative issue, and we wanted to run that past the PAC and see how other states have handled it, or how our folks would actually advise us to handle it or advocate on behalf of it. They're there for us in that regard. And again, they do develop these guides and white papers, right? So those would be posted on our website. Now, this is the one that just came up in my presidency, and it has to do with the NCES, National Congress on Examination for Engineers and Surveyors. These are the folks that actually manage the professional engineers and professional surveying licenses. They're not credentials, they're actually licenses. And they reached out to us because they want to create an exam and licensure for GIS professionals. So what they're in essence saying is that you as a GIS professional would not be able to practice GIS unless you had this license. Our position on this now understand their perspective is they're looking at it from an engineering perspective and a surveyor's perspective, where all the things that they do have an impact on the health, safety, and welfare of an individual. Not everything a GIS professional does has an imminent impact on the health, safety, and welfare of an individual, right? Think about what it is we do. We just don't put points on a map. We do data analytics, but we're data scientists. We're actually data visualizers, right? We put things together in representations. We're planners. There's any number of things that we do that even by their understanding would not require licensure. So our position on this is that we want to be involved in the discussion, but we don't believe it's necessary. So Policy Advisory Committee took the lead on that one. All right, the PEC, the Professional Education Committee. Again, it's webinars and certified workshops, right? You know, if you want to put together, develop an educational offering to be endorsed by URISA, we encourage you to do that. But there are some standards that need to be met, and our PEC are the ones to actually vet the content and, you know, actually allow whether, you know, it's going to be put, whether it will be put forward to the members or not. And that's on the certified workshops. As far as webinars are concerned, you know, we will take, you know, if you have something to say as far as a webinar is concerned, you can present it to the PEC, and they will endorse it and put it out there. There's a lot less rigor involved in the webinar series, you know, for like an hour webinar type of thing. But we have a few that are coming up here in February. Well, we have one that just passed, the Resilience and Analysis and Planning Tool, but the role of GIS in determining FEMA's community disaster resilient zones, that's here on the 22nd. And then the Excellence in GIS webinar series, anybody that has ever won a ESEG award knows that we actually, URISA puts together the presentations of all of those so that there can be some Q&A and more of a deep dive into their solution. Certified workshops, as being a chapter, we actually get a full day workshop or 2 half-day course workshops that we can put on virtually, or we can do at a conference. But these are, they go to the website, they run sort of the spectrum. One that I just finished, I think it's management, GIS management. And then there's one on security for GIS professionals, things like that. So GIS Core, like I said, this is an awesome group led by our own Sheree, who's Alum, I believe is how you pronounce her last name. She is with the city of Columbus. I just took this screen capture, but they have over 99,000 hours of volunteer time, you know, on the books right now. And let's see, over 3,000 volunteer positions filled. You can see they work all over the globe, a lot of times in majority or in underserved areas of the world. But the QR code there, you can take a snap of that, go out and check out what their, you know, what GIS Core is up to, and sign up to be a volunteer. I know that there are some opportunities for travel. I know Dick Katapish, I believe, maybe volunteered for one of these and had an experience to an opportunity to travel outside the United States in support of GIS Core. So definitely take a look at this. Too much to go over at this time, but I definitely think it's one of our best committees or groups under the URISA umbrella. Leadership academies. I had mentioned this before and previously, but this is the 5-day targeted training. It's taught by GIS leaders. So the GIS leaders, when you say taught by GIS leaders, we're saying that they are folks that have been around for a while, but have also taken the course and have shown a examples of leadership within the URISA organization as well. Again, the in-person is, I think it's preferred that way because you build more of a bond with other folks, but understanding that the cost of travel, can be prohibitive for some. So we do make this virtually available as well. I think folks that take it virtually will say that they do get a lot of the fellowship because we try to make it very interactive, conversation for the group as well. And again, this Advanced GIS Leadership Academy is coming. That's more of an in-depth dive. This is the first time we'll be giving it here in August of this year. And quite honestly, I think it's actually, this one will be mostly the folks that have been through GLA and maybe taught GLA will take the advanced GLA so that then they can understand the content and be able to present it as well. So it sort of feeds itself, if you will. the leadership academies. So chapters, remember I said there was 13 of us. Well, here they are. Alaska and Canada. I mean, I'm sorry, not Alaska, but the United States and Canada. We are the Ohio Valley chapter. As you'll notice, there are a number of single state chapters, but then there's some regional chapters like Northern Rockies, Ohio Valley, Rocky Mountain, Mid-Atlantic, Chesapeake. But there's really no one size fits all for how you create a chapter. We were the Ohio chapter and then decided to group in Western Pennsylvania and West Virginia. We do have our current president, Ohio Valley chapter is Pennsylvanian. Every year there's a competition, right, to see which chapter actually, really sort of fills the mission and goals of the chapter. Texas, it seemed like they were going to go for the three-peat, but California snuck in and took it away from them. A lot of, New England has been a recent winner in the past as well. And there was the Georgia chapter, they had actually won. Washington State was a chapter that had won. But the goals are there, right? I mean, or the challenge is there for Ohio Valley to rise up and become chapter of the year as well. So there's an opportunity for this chapter to knock it out of the park, so to speak. The Tech Action Team, this is actually something that just, this is one of these teams or task forces that get spun up by the board to answer a specific question or concern. Once they've done that, they're to be, potentially disbanded. Although I don't know that this one actually will be disbanded. Because I think that one of the things we as a technology organization really should be keeping the technology front of mind. But your membership is a new membership management system that we purchased 2 years ago, and this year we really sort of it's actually taken off. We've actually implemented it. So go out and check that out. As a member of URISA, you actually have a login that you can get on there and communicate with other members within URISA forums, so to speak. If you have a question, I've used it to pose questions to other members and get ideas presented back. Podio is a platform that we were using for the longest time, and that needs to be changed. So the action team is actually going to look at how we move away from that. Again, that Connect is part of your membership. That's the membership engagement portion. We are now, I think we've actually put in the budget this year for a new learning management system. So that means that you'll be able to sign up for workshops and webinars and then have that learning management system keep track of those for your GISP points. So that's pretty awesome. AGUL and Hub Management is, so we'll just say it out loud. Esri is a huge supporter of URISA. Jack Dangerman specifically. I wore my URISA brand for our SAG award, and he commented and said that URISA has been instrumental in his career, as an instrumental organization in his career over his lifetime. URISA has actually been around longer than Esri has. So Esri's in the 50s. URISA's been around for 62 years now. So it's pretty interesting. And again, the two conferences that are coming up, go out to our urisa.org website. GI's ValTech conference is going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm going. I'm leaving the evening of the 8th. I will not be missing the eclipse. Well, that's if the sun's shining that day here in Cleveland, Ohio. But I'm leaving that evening and we'll be down there for the duration. GI's Valuation Technologies Conference is a partnership between the IAAO, Auditors and Assessors, and URISA, and it's really talking about how GIS and technologies that we're responsible for actually helps auditors and appraisers do their job and valuing properties. Cuyahoga County is in their sexennial reappraisal, and I can tell you that GIS plays a pivotal role in what it is that they do. So, and then this location enterprise addressing and public safety, the LEAP conference, 28th to 29th. They talk about a lot of things. So next gen 911 addressing is a big thing, but also anything related to public safety. So one of the presentations this year will be our Cuyahoga County EMA talking about how they are preparing for the eclipse. So it's kind of interesting, things that you wouldn't think of. But I believe it was Lorain County next door issued their emergency management issued a paper to the commissioner saying, make sure that you have enough food and water and toilet paper, and make sure that your cars are filled up with gas, because what the number of people that will be traveling into the areas of total eclipse could potentially overwhelm the system, especially the transportation grid. And Cleveland decided that just having the eclipse wasn't enough to bring people into downtown Cleveland, that they were also going to have opening day. So the Guardians will be cracking the bat. I'm not sure, probably at 1 o'clock or 1:05 or something like that in the afternoon, and the eclipse is somewhere in the order of like 3:25 here. But yeah, so that's going to be a presentation on how emergency managers prepare and use GIS for an event like that. And then the granddaddy of them all, GIS Pro 2024, will be held in Portland, Maine this year. I'm looking forward to it because I love lobster, but it is a great conference, and New England's kind of a neat place to have it, I think. Our New England chapter is the chapter sponsor with URISA this year, and so that's why you can see that the slide deck, you're probably looking in the lower hand corner saying, this isn't New England URISA, and what does a lobster have to do with Ohio or this presentation? Well, Portland, Maine, lobsters, GIS Pro 2024. So if you haven't budgeted for it, do so now. Love to see you there. And I believe that you can still submit an abstract if you want to present a project that you've got currently working. We'd love to hear from you. And connect with me. So there's my LinkedIn QR code. I believe most of the folks that are on the call, I probably know or are LinkedIn with some way, shape, fashion, or form. But if not, make sure you take a snap of that and follow me. I actually have a URISA email address too, so if you want to email me there, you can. Or tpfisher@cuyahogacounty.us is my work email address. So I will open the floor to questions. I know that was fast, but hey, I got it in under an hour. I tend to expand on a lot of topics, and so that goes. I fill up the hour with a lot of what I talk about. So anybody have any questions about ways that maybe they can volunteer, or questions about direction? The board is actually going to dust off the strategic plan that was created in 2020. And we are going to, in fact, we started it at our meeting early February, February the 7th, we started the discussion of how do we, modify the strategic plan with the understanding of market segmentation and who we are as an organization. I think a lot of folks think of us as the local government group. We are considered local government for a long part of our history, but do we pivot and expand into not just consulting, but also business? So like retail and other places that are using GIS technology to make intelligent decisions about business location and management. Utilities, software companies, consultants on the private side. We do have a nice membership representation from the federal, state, local level, so county and city. But that's really what the where we're headed as the board is sort of doing an environmental scan and understanding where we are currently situated and where we want to be with the future of GIS technologies. One of the things that I perseverate over is is GIS a profession or is it a technology that's used by professionals in other fields? I think it's a mix of both, but where is it going? That's the question that I think needs to be present of mind. Are we data scientists? Are we data governors? What in fact are we? So that's existential crisis, I guess, in my mind, but for me at least. But anyway, I'll open the floor. Anybody have any questions? I'm not sure who's moderating. Who is the moderator for this? Is that you, Matt McGuire? Oh, okay. So do you want to jump on and see if anybody has any questions? Moderate, or do I moderate myself? Feel free to come off mic. Anyone? Questions, comments, concerns?
And if there are any questions,
anything in the chat? Okay. Mark, you have something?
Hi, Tom, everyone. This is Mark Dislow at Lakeland Community College in Greater Cleveland. So we're right down the road from Tom's office there in Cuyahoga County. I have a question for you. I've been giving a lot of thought to this question of career trajectory within GIS. And we are training folks to go out and be GIS technicians, but with an eye on the long term in terms of development. And since you brought up the topic of the future of GIS, I wondered if you could just talk for a moment about what you think the big sort of change has been as GIS has emerged as a field, and what you think the top thing you would say to someone who's just starting out in GIS, maybe looking for a job as a GIS technician, but with bigger ambitions.
Sure. Well, I guess, really from my perspective, GIS in its history was a technology that required quite a bit of skill and training. So you actually were, again, it was all command line, and it was, you had to sit down and you actually had to spend, 6 months to a year to actually get any sort of understanding of the technology. And as technology has evolved, the GIS has evolved, right? We've got this graphical user interface. I would consider it, the technology to be flattened, and that's just the way technology is, right? And so, GIS, where it, to be a GIS professional, where you would have, formal training, years of training to be, become an expert at it. I think there's still that need because the breadth and the depth of the technology, it's become simpler, but there's so much more now that you can do with it. To have a complete understanding of the complexity of the technology across the board, it still takes time. So I think that's where the professional comes in, plus the management of the technology aspects of it, right? So the database management, the server infrastructure, and even some of that stuff is being automated. But I think, in license management, those types of things is really, I think, where a lot of the professionals come in. Even at, in application development, it's a low code, no code environment, but you still have to understand, to be able to do project management, right? So be able to understand what the needs are, and how do you meet the needs with the technology, right, to deliver. Also be able to communicate effectively, right? So that cartography piece of it, the dashboards, that is another aspect I think that GIS professionals, have to have a broader understanding of how those things work. But when it comes down to using mapping technology, I think Esri will admit this, that their goal is to get GIS technology in the hands of everybody, right? They want GIS to be the Word, Excel, PowerPoint of mapping technologies. So that's that flattening aspect of things that, those folks know a little bit and maybe need coaching. But they're you're giving this technology and you're putting it in the hands of professionals in many different areas. So in Cuyahoga County, just as an example, you're putting GIS technology in the hands of public safety professionals, the medical examiner, the sheriff's office, the economic development. They all have different needs and uses for the technology, right? It's location-based, yes, but with the different specific needs. And so you either, as a GIS person, you understand the breadth and the depth of the technology, and then you get into, or I would take that back, you understand from a, let's say, planning perspective, or you look at it from an economic development perspective, and then you pick up the tools and you're the GIS person within that environment, right? That's one way to look at it, to be a GIS professional. But then the other way to look at it is for to be a generalist, right? To understand the whole technology and be able to coach people on all the ways you can deliver content, mapping, and the like. So it really, that's where the former, when I talk about being an economic development person and using GIS technology, that is that's the argument that GIS is a technology to be used by a professional in another field, as opposed to the pure GIS professional, right? Where they think of things more broadly and understand the infrastructure and how all the pieces and parts connect together, right? But that's the challenge, right? And as the technology evolves, and where it's going is AI, right? It's going to be easier. Right now, there's a lot of people that do coding with Bard was, what is it now, Gemini, I believe, and ChatGPT, and they just go out and grab code and plug it and play it, and away you go. And so there's, I think there's going to be more, just like any profession, less and less need for the, certain aspects of the position or job. So you have to be nimble, right? Always be looking to what's the future of where this technology is going. Don't be complacent with the now, right? Always, and that's for the professional too, Mark. I think that's understanding what your brand of technology and where it's headed, right? What their roadmap is. What's Esri's roadmap, and then being on sort of the leading edge of understanding that technology, so that you can be first to implement or give feedback on or understand it, right? I mean, that's going to separate you from the rest of the field.
Thanks, Tom. That was a great summary. I was meeting with one of our students this morning on a WebEx call, and she's an intern at Holden Arboretum, and is working on mapping out their irrigation system. Just a simple, short little project. The conversation led us to talk about 6 different applications and people in the region of Northeast Ohio who are doing the same thing, but at a bigger scale. Yeah. And I could just see her eyes start to light up with the possibilities in terms of, hey, this isn't just some isolated activity an intern is doing, slogging around, picking up irrigation equipment and trying to figure out what the different 8 types of valve stems are, or whatever it is she's mapping. So very interesting. Thank you.
Well, I will also say this too, Mark, that the technology is not just technology; it's people and process too. And the people in the process, you need to be, I think you need to, there's a space in this area to be a negotiator, right? Or be a people person and, sell and convince and talk about the technology. And then also think about integrations, right? GIS can do some things really well, and there's other applications that do things really well too. Is there an opportunity to do an integration between what we consider best in class technologies? So those are the kinds of things that I think you always need to be strategizing in this profession.
Thank you.